Okay, well, my name is Rena and our company is CYR Funding, and I've been financing real estate for the past 44 years. So I've seen a few ups and downs, and probably a recession that most of you would not remember because you might not have even been born. I don't know, you all look pretty young to me. But that was in the late 80s, early 90s when real estate did go down 30%. And land went down about 50% pretty much overnight. So the thing is that a lot of people have forgotten that these kinds of things can happen. And it's not necessarily true that all of a sudden in the spring everything is going to rebound and all of a sudden the prices are going to start booming again. We don't know. In the last recession, it took like 4 or 5 years at least for things to rebound, and people did lose a lot of money. So happiness is a positive cash flow. You know, you can't have too many condos that are negative. I have a couple myself. So it's great if you have the income to be able to hold on. But if values are falling and you have a high overhead, because on the condos they don't make sense. Like they do only rent whatever for $2,000, $2,500. But there's the condo fees. Condo fees can be $500, $700, $800 a month, plus your mortgage payment. So you are definitely going to have a negative cash flow unless you're paying all cash for it. Of course, the more financing you have, the more negative cash flow there'll be. The less financing, the less negative cash flow there will be. So it's probably better to invest, I'm sorry to say that, into income-producing properties. So that could be, if you want to put the work into some of these condos, if they would allow you to do an Airbnb, you could probably, make enough money to carry it. But other than that, again, with a single family dwelling, it's probably going to be a negative cash flow. You have to put a big down payment. So then you should be moving into either multifamily or commercial, like a story apartment above, an industrial condo, triplex, fourplex, whatever it might be. So how you're going to analyze the property value, as was mentioned earlier, the income approach to value is you take that net operating income, which is the gross income of the property, and you have to deduct all the expenses, even some expenses that are notional expenses, such as a vacancy rate, because not every property is rented 100% of the time. Sometimes you have a vacancy. So on an apartment building, you might take a 3% vacancy rate. On a commercial building, maybe a 5% vacancy rate, or bad debt for tenants who don't pay. Then in addition to the operating expenses for property taxes, insurance, utilities, depending on whether the landlord or the tenant is paying these expenses, in addition to those, you have maintenance, which was already brought up, and management. Even if you are managing the property yourself, a mortgage lender is going to calculate management because they always have to look at the worst case scenario. God forbid if they ever have to take over the property, they're not going to manage it themselves. They're going to hire a manager. So they want to make sure that there's enough income to cover all that. So that's how you come to the net operating income. So the formula is easy to remember. You can remember IRV, I, which is the net income, divided by rate, which is the cap rate, equals value. Income divided by rate equals value. So that's exactly what he was explaining. If you had a $20,000 income and you divided it by the 5%, you got whatever it was, $100,000 value. There's other ways you can increase your net income other than raising the rents. You can put in certain types of energy saving things like LED lighting, different types of heating. If you, like for example, in a plaza, one of my clients changed it all to LED lighting. He cut his hydro down by 50%. It was a lot of money. That added about $1 million to his plaza just by doing that one thing. So see how you can cut expenses. As far as financing goes, okay, the market is a little bit different right now. The values have dropped. A lot of people are getting into trouble. For example, yesterday a client was buying a house for $4.2 million. It was a new home. It took a couple years to build. He had an existing home. He was going to sell it. He thought for $2 million. But in the meantime, the market changed. He listed it for 1.8, 1.5, still hasn't had any offers. Now he doesn't have enough money for the down payment on the new house. So now this is a problem. And also, even though he has great credit, great income, like, about him and his wife make about $500,000. They still can't afford those two properties together. It would take 80% of their income to pay principal, interest, and taxes. The government's taking the other 20%, so they got 0% to live on. The bank had approved them for a mortgage for maybe about $2.7 million, which isn't enough now. And that was conditional upon them selling their old house, which they can't. So this is the kind of things people are facing, where they bought something and now they need the money for the down payment on the new one, so they're putting a second mortgage on their old house. And the new house, they're also putting a first and second. Now they have 4 mortgages, 2 houses, and they can't afford it. So things are not all as rosy as it seems. The newspapers are really, and the press have really done, and the government have really done a lot of damage. It says a lot of it is to a self-fulfilling prophecy. If people believe that the values are going to go down, they're going to say, well, why should I buy now? I'll wait till it goes lower. I'll buy it then. So this is what creates that kind of a market. In actuality, real estate prices in the last couple of months have increased slightly. And even though they dropped 20% or whatever they dropped, they're still higher than the previous year. So it's all the way the press is presenting it that's not making it good. What can happen next year, we don't know. There's still a lot of foreign investors coming in. Toronto's a safe place for people to put their money. It's still a bargain. Now it's even more of a bargain. So maybe it will rebound in the spring. We saw this happen in Vancouver, and now it's already rebounding. So we don't know. It's a risk. We'll just have to wait and see. As far as getting money goes today, it's harder. There's going to be new regulations coming out in the new year with all these stress tests. The banks have a lot of rules, especially if you're real estate investors. They don't like that for some reason. Some of them allow you to have 1 second home, or 2 or 3 investment properties, or 4 or 5 investment properties. After that, you can't have any more. So that's a difficult thing for real estate investors. We have lenders who allow you to have unlimited properties. If you have 100 properties and they're all carrying themselves, why shouldn't you have all those properties? So today, a lot of people are going to what is called B lenders. They're a little bit higher than the regular banks. Their rates are like 4.5% to 5%, but they're easier to qualify. Whereas with a bank, you can only use 30 to 32% of your income to pay principal, interest, and taxes. With a B lender, they allow you to use 47% of your income for principal, interest, and taxes. So you have a lot more flexibility to qualify. Not only that, they don't usually care how many rental properties that you have. And also, they are more flexible on the type of income that they can use. With a bank, you can only use whatever's showing on your line 150 of your tax return. Sometimes if you're self-employed or a realtor, they might gross up your income, add back some of your expenses like travel, car, and so on to make you even with other people. But with a B lender, if you're self-employed, for example, and you can prove you're self-employed, you have articles of incorporation or a master business license, you have a business bank account, even if you showed you're making $20,000 on your tax return, if you were depositing an average of $10,000 every month into your business account, they're going to count it for $120,000 income. So and the only other thing is that before last year, or before the things happened with home trust and so on, that you probably heard about 5-6 months ago, the B lenders were taking people with bad credit. So let's say credit in the 500s. Now they want credit to be pretty similar to a bank. So the credit has to still be good, but they will allow you to use more of your income, as we said, to pay principal, interest, and taxes, and be more creative in what income that they will count as income. If you don't qualify for the B lenders, let's say your credit is bad, not any of you in this room, of course, but some other people, then they have to get private money. So on a residential, let's say, or commercial, any type of property today, you're going to be paying probably around 6 3/4 to 8% on a private first mortgage. Second mortgages, when they're going up to like 80%, you're going to pay 12% plus fees. So cash is king. If you have money to invest and you want to put it in a safe place, probably it's a good idea to invest in mortgages. That's why the banks invest in mortgages. So because you still have, providing the values don't crash, because we don't know if that could happen too. Like at that time that I was telling you back when we did have the crash, let's say people were lending second mortgages up to 85% of the value. If the value dropped 30%, now your mortgage is whatever, 110, 115% of the value, and people can't pay. When you sell the property, you're going to lose money. So don't lend too high. If you are going to lend on mortgages, don't lend more than 75% of the value tops, I would suggest. So we finance all types of real estate, whether it's land acquisition, land servicing, construction. You can make money also on dividing land. You can maybe buy a lot and sever it into 2 lots. You make the money on the land. Now, you can make 30, 40%. Sometimes it's easier to make money on land than it is on even building a house. And that's pretty much what I could tell you this evening, but I could answer all your questions as I finance pretty much every type of property that exists. And look forward to your questions. Thank you.